Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm gamesplaining the Towers of Arkhanosto. So this is a dice placement game. There's a bag of dice. On your turn, you will draw 4 dice if it's a 3-player game, or 5 dice if it's a 2 or 4-player game. So it's a 3-player game I've got set up. You roll all 4 dice and then choose one. So if this player is first player, he would choose one of the dice that's been rolled, and he might decide to go with this one. Now, the reason he would choose a die is because it fits into what is required on one of the towers. These 4 boards are the towers. This center one does nothing except you put dice that can't be used anywhere else there. You must put one of your meeples with the die so we know who has placed it. So this tower is looking for a 1 or a 2 in blue. So he's going to use that. Where you place it in the tower is also important. If he places it there, says a 2 with a star, he will get 2 points. And that's really straightforward. If he were to place it there, this symbol means he would get a point for each level of the tower it's in. So on level 1, that spot is only worth 1 point. Once we get to level 2, and I'll talk about how we add the levels in a moment, it'll be worth 2. If it's on level 3, it'll be worth 3 points, etc., etc. And this one allows you a choice, and you're doing it with one of your other meeples. So if he places it there, he can place a meeple on one of the other towers, or he can place a meeple onto his spellbook. Now notice it was a 2 rolled, so he would need to place it on the 2 location. The spellbook can be used at any time. So on his next turn, he might wish to cast that spell, in which case he would do what is on that action, which is add 1 or take 1 away from one of the dice, and then that guy would come off the spellbook to show that he has actually done the action. Those 3 options are available on each of the 3 different towers. If what has been rolled is not available, so at the moment, green would probably go there, red would probably take that one, which would allow him to throw a guy on there. If, however, none of those 3 were available, this one was the only one available, he would have to go into this center tower, which takes anything, any color, any number, but there's no special abilities that go with that. Once everyone has placed 1 die, the leftover die goes up onto the mana pool to mark that we have finished round 1, and we go to round 2, so the next player gets the dice bag and play on from there. What you're playing for are these influence markers. The way you get those influence markers, other than using the spots to say which height or gain 2 from the tower, is let's, for example, imagine a 4 of red was put in there as well, and let's say it was this guy that did it. This tower or level of the tower is now complete, so you get some prestige or points for filling up a tower. Each apprentice is worth 1 influence. You will notice if you're looking really closely that there are these guys that have the star. There's only 1 of them for each color, and that's the master, and he has 2 influence if he's in one of those locations. So you add up your influence. Green has 2, red has 1 at the moment. The player with the most influence in a space would get 6 prestige points. So green would get 6 of those points. The player with the second most will get 4 of those points. So red would get 4 at the moment. If that was taken by blue, we have a 3-way tie, which means everyone would get 3 influence only. If blue's master is there, blue's master is worth 2. These guys are worth 1 each. So that would mean that blue would get 6 of those influence points, and these 2 would both get 3 each rather than the 4. If One of the other players also had their master on there, so he's 2, he's 2, he's 1. These guys have the tie, which means each of them would get the 3 influence, and red would get nothing for that. I believe that's all of the scorings that happen when you're adding to that. What then happens is the meeples come off the floor and go back to the player. A new level comes out and we play on. If the same thing happened on the central board, so we had 3 dice and 3 guys, let's just put these across for the moment. The same type of scoring happens, but it's 3 points for the player with the most influence on there, 2 points for the second, or only 1 point for ties, and then the next tile comes off the top but flips over. So there's always this ability to add the die in somewhere, even if you haven't been able to do the thing. Bearing in mind that there is a symbol on these cards or tiles now as we go higher, and what they allow you to do is to put one of your meeples onto the spellbook depending on which die you use. So if I put that 2 up there with the guy, I would put a meeple on the 2. Remembering there is only space for 1 meeple on each spell. So what are the spells? I'm glad you asked. The number 1 allows you to cast any of the spells from the spellbook. The number 2 allows you to add 1 or -1 from the die. Notice when you're using that rule that adding 1 to a 6 does not make it a 1. Taking 1 away from the 1 does not make it 6. This one allows you to flip the die. So if you're on the 1, you can flip the die to a 6. This one allows you to morph the die, which is treated as another color. So I could place this one here if I wished, even though I was looking for red dice. This one allows you to swap a die on the table for a die that's in the mana pool. So if this one had nowhere to go, but that one could actually go places, you could just swap them over and then use the die. And then number 6 allows you to swap a die on the table with a die on the top floor of the central tower. So if that one's up there and that's there, we could just do a straight swap to be able to manipulate and use other dice. When you use that spell, that comes off the board. The game continues for 8 rounds, or if you're in a 3-player game, 9 rounds as marked by this. So once dice are being pushed up there, all the way through to 8 or 9, depending how many players, that will be the end of the game. When the game finishes, you're going to score each incomplete tower, so the top level of each tower, with 3 points going to the person who has the most influence, 2 points, and then 1 point. So it's the same as the central tower. Plus, if you've got any meeples left over in your spellbook, you're getting an extra prestige for each of those guys. Whoever has the most prestige is the winner. In the case of a tie, the player with the most meeples in their spellbook is the winner. And that, my friends, is everything for the Towers of Arkhanosto. Please go ahead and watch my gameplay to get a feel for how the game actually plays. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you would like to be gamesplained, please shoot me an email to thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter @thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games that I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.